Welcome to the Heartbreak Chronicles, where every story is a raw reflection of life. Hit that subscribe button to stay tuned, give us a like to show your support, and share this episode with your friends. Don't forget to leave a comment and let us know what you think. Now, let's dive into today's story. I never imagined that a betrayal would destroy my life so completely. That night, when I pushed open the door to my home and saw my beloved wife Evelyn entangled with my most trusted friend Marcus, my world fell apart at that moment. My name is Ethan Reeves, and I was once one of the hottest architects in New York. My work spans the Manhattan skyline, from glittering skyscrapers to art-filled museums. Each building is a masterpiece into which I have poured my heart and soul. I am proud of my accomplishments, but even more proud of my beautiful family, my beautiful and intelligent wife Evelyn, and my lovely daughter Sophia. Our home is a luxury apartment on the Upper East Side with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park. Every weekend, we would enjoy breakfast on the spacious terrace, where Evelyn would prepare delicious French toast and Sophia would gleefully tell us funny stories about her time at school. At that time, I thought that was my greatest happiness in this life. However, fate always likes to play jokes. On the eve of our 10th wedding anniversary, I was given an important project: the design of a landmark building for Marcus Hawthorne, a prominent real estate developer. Marcus has been a close friend of mine for many years and a great partner in the architectural world. I was fully committed to the project, often working late into the night. And it was during this time that I ignored Evelyn's feelings and gave fate a chance to take advantage of them. That night, I finished the design early to surprise Evelyn. I bought her favorite wine and flowers and fantasized about a romantic evening we could spend together. However, the moment I pushed open the door to my home, my world came crashing down. Evelyn and Marcus stood disheveled in the center of the living room, panic and guilt in their eyes. "Ethan, it's not what you think," Evelyn said shakily, but I couldn't listen to any more explanations. I felt a wave of vertigo, as if the whole world was spinning. I staggered out of the house and wandered aimlessly through the streets until dawn. The next day, I forced myself to calm down and decided to talk to Evelyn. I naively thought that maybe we could still save the marriage, at least for Sophia's sake. But Evelyn's attitude made me completely despair. "Ethan, I'm in love with Marcus," she said calmly, "and we've been together for 6 months. I want a divorce." I felt a sharp heartache, as if someone had pierced my chest with a sharp blade. "What about Sophia?" I asked with difficulty. "I'll file for custody of Sophia," Evelyn said coldly. "You're always too busy working to take care of her." I couldn't believe my ears. I love Sophia more than anything, and despite my busy schedule, I always make time for her as much as I can. How could I possibly give up my own daughter? "I'm not agreeing to a divorce," I said through gritted teeth, "much less giving up custody of Sophia." Evelyn's eyes suddenly turned cold. "Well then, you're going to regret this." I didn't realize that this statement would be the beginning of my nightmare. Over the next few days, Evelyn began spreading rumors that I was violent and often abused her and Sophia. My friends started avoiding me and clients were canceling. My career and reputation fell apart in a matter of weeks. What broke my heart the most was that Sophia started to alienate me. Apparently, Evelyn said a lot of things against me in front of her. Every time I try to approach Sophia, she ducks away in fear. My world completely collapsed. Just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, disaster struck again. One night, the police burst into my apartment and arrested me for domestic violence and child abuse. That's when I realized that Evelyn and Marcus were not only going to destroy my marriage and my career, they were going to completely destroy my life. In detention, I finally realized Evelyn's terrible plan. She falsified a great deal of evidence, including photographs of injuries, medical records, and even eyewitness statements. My attorney told me that the situation was so unfavorable that it would be very difficult to clear my name, even if I were innocent. When the trial began, I was horrified to find that even Sophia had been called as a witness. My heart broke into a million pieces when I saw my beloved daughter on the witness stand, tearfully testifying against me. I knew that Sophia must have been manipulated by Evelyn and Marcus, but there was nothing I could do about it. In the end, the court found me guilty. When the judge announced that I would spend the next 6 years in prison, I felt helpless. I watched Evelyn and Marcus grinning at each other from the gallery and suddenly realized that this was all an elaborate plot on their part. As the police handcuffed me and prepared to lead me out of the courtroom, I suddenly turned back to Evelyn, looked her in the eye, and shouted with all my strength, "One day, the truth will come out. I'm going to make you pay for all of this, Evelyn." With the closing of the iron gates, my life of freedom came to a temporary end. But I secretly vowed that no matter what the cost, I would clear my name and reclaim everything I had lost. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know that this is just the beginning of a new chapter in my life. In a dark prison, I began to plot my rebirth and revenge. The iron door slammed heavily with an ear-splitting sound. I, Ethan Reeves, once New York's hottest architect, am now a prisoner. I was incarcerated in the New York State Penitentiary, a place I had only ever seen in movies. On my first day, I felt the brutality of prison life. The other prisoners surveyed me with hostile eyes as if I were a fresh piece of meat. I try to stay calm and tell myself I can't be crushed by the circumstances here. Still, I couldn't help but tremble as I was pushed into the small, dark, musty-smelling cell. My roommate was a large, tattooed man who called himself K2. At first, K2 was hostile to me and even threatened to teach me a lesson. But in a casual conversation, I realized that K2 can't actually read. "Do you want to learn to read and write?" I asked carefully. K2 looked at me in surprise before replying gruffly, "What do you care?" I took a deep breath and said, "Knowledge is power here. If you can read and write, you won't be easily deceived by others. I can teach you." K2 was silent for a moment, then finally nodded. And so we began our course. Every night, after the other inmates were asleep, I would teach K2 to recognize letters and spell words. Slowly, K2 not only learned basic reading and writing, but also began to read some simple books. Seeing K2's progress, I suddenly realized that I could do something meaningful even in this environment. I began offering to help other inmates who wanted to learn by teaching them basic design knowledge and entrepreneurial skills. Gradually, I established my own small classroom in the prison. However, not everyone welcomed my behavior. There was a group of inmates, led by a man named Snake, who used to harass me and my students. They think I'm destroying the prison ecosystem. One day, while I was teaching a group of inmates how to design simple architectural models, Snake burst in. "Look what it is," Snake said mockingly. "Mr. Architect is giving these fools a lesson." I tried to stay calm and said, "Everyone has a right to learn, Snake." Snake sneered and approached me, threatening, "Who do you think you are? Don't forget, this is a prison, not your design studio." Just as Snake was about to strike, K2 suddenly stepped forward. "Fuck off, Snake. Don't touch my friend." Snake looked at K2's strong physique and finally left unhappy. But I know that this is just the beginning. The days inside the bars are as slow and heavy as frozen time. I, Ethan Reeves, have spent 1,825 days and nights in this prison, 5 full years. Each day, I silently counted the remaining days of my sentence and waited for the moment when I would regain my freedom. However, life here is not as monotonous as I first thought. As time went on, I began to notice some anomalies in the prison. Certain inmates seemed to enjoy the privilege of not having to participate in forced labor, being able to move around freely, and even having access to cell phones. These privileges were clearly not obtained by proper means. I began to take a closer look at these privileged prisoners. Most of them are characters with backgrounds, ex-politicians, wealthy businessmen, gang leaders. I noticed that they often had secret conversations with some of the guards and sometimes handed them small packages. One day, while working in the laundry room, I overheard a conversation between 2 privileged prisoners. "Man, how did you get all that good stuff?" one of them asked. The other replied in a low voice, "Don't you know? As long as you give Thompson enough money, anything goes. Prices have gone up lately, though, and he says there's more and more pressure out there." Thompson, that's our warden's name. This conversation made me realize that corruption in prison may be worse than I thought. I told my attorney, Ben, about these findings. Ben's eyes flashed with a hint of gravity as he listened. "Ethan, this information is very important," he said, "and I will launch an investigation. But you have to be very careful not to let anyone know you're watching this. Over the next few months, I continued to quietly observe and gather more details. I noticed that in addition to granting privileges, Warden Thompson seems to be using these inmates with backgrounds to gain access to outside information. On one occasion, I saw Thompson having a long conversation with an inmate known as the Professor. Afterward, Thompson looked unusually excited and immediately made a phone call. A few days later, it was reported in the newspaper that the stock of a large company, which happened to be a former client of the Professor, had suddenly skyrocketed. I told Ben about these observations. Ben told me that he had started working on it and had found some disturbing connections. "Ethan," Ben whispered during one of the meetings, "we've discovered that there's been frequent financial exchanges between Thompson and Marcus Hawthorne." Marcus Hawthorne. The name gave me a jolt. He was my best friend, and now he's one of the culprits who put me in jail. Ben continued, "Based on our investigation, it appears that Marcus was using Thompson to obtain some inside information, particularly about certain high-profile inmates. This information was valuable to his real estate and investment business. In return, Marcus helped Thompson launder money out of his business and provided cover for some of his illegal activities. The discovery both angered and shocked me. Marcus has not only ruined my life, he continues to profit from the suffering of others. It was during my 5th year and 6 months in prison that things took a turn for the worse. That morning, the entire prison was suddenly thrown into chaos. FBI agents broke in and began a massive search and arrest operation. I was ordered to stay in my cell with the other prisoners, but I could hear the noise and confusion outside. A few hours later, I was taken to a separate room. There, I met Agent Johnson and Ben, the head of the FBI. Agent Johnson got right to the point. "Mr. Reeves, based on a tip from your attorney Ben, we conducted a months-long undercover investigation. Now I can tell you that we have succeeded in exposing a vast network of corruption." Agent Johnson explained the findings in detail. It turns out that Warden Thompson has been using his position of authority to collude with outside criminal organizations to conduct various illegal activities within the prison. He not only accepted bribes and granted privileges to certain prisoners, but also utilized the contacts and knowledge of these prisoners to obtain all kinds of insider information for stock trading and other illegal investments. Marcus Hawthorne, on the other hand, is Thompson's main partner in the outside world. Marcus used the information he received from Thompson to make a fortune in the real estate and stock markets. In return, he helped Thompson launder money and used his contacts to provide protection for Thompson. But what shocked me more was what Ben said next. "Ethan, in the course of our investigation, we've uncovered more new evidence about your case," Ben said, his voice trembling slightly with excitement. "We've found conclusive evidence that proves Marcus and Evelyn conspired to frame you." Ben explained that during the search of Marcus's office, the FBI found a series of documents and recordings that clearly documented how Marcus manipulated evidence and bribed police officers and judges to ensure my conviction. And, Ben continued, "We also found out that Evelyn has been receiving monetary assistance from Marcus. Part of the reason she went along with Marcus to set you up was because Marcus promised her a large sum of money and a mansion." These words were like a sharp blade that pierced deep into my heart. I can't believe Evelyn would sell me out and our marriage for money. For a moment, a variety of emotions swirled through me: anger, pain, a sense of betrayal, and a hint of relief. Agent Johnson went on to say, "Based on this new evidence, we have filed a motion with the court to reopen your case. Given the strength of the evidence, the court has agreed to a retrial as soon as possible." Over the next few weeks, my case re-entered the legal process. New evidence is presented one by one, including Marcus' confession, Evelyn's bank records, and the recanted confessions of multiple paid witnesses. Finally, in my 5th year and 9 months in prison, the court announced its final decision. In light of the new evidence clearly proving that I was wrongfully convicted, the court dropped all my previous charges and acquitted me. The moment the judge read the verdict, unspeakable complex emotions welled up inside me. The nightmare of over 5 years is finally over, but who can make up for the time I lost and the pain I suffered? Walking out of the courtroom that day, the sun was exceptionally bright, as if to sweep away the gloom of the past few years. Ben stood at the bottom of the steps and gave me a strong hug. "We did it, Ethan," he said, relief in his voice. "But it's just the beginning. We still have a lot of work to do." Ben told me that next we would be suing Marcus, Evelyn, and everyone involved in setting me up for a huge amount of money. At the same time, we need to start restoring my reputation and rebuilding my business. Sitting in Ben's car, I silently stared out the window at the New York street scene speeding by. Nearly 6 years ago, I had it all here. Now I have lost it all, but have been given a chance to be reborn. My heart is full of contradictions, pain and anger at the past, hope and fear for the future, and thoughts and worries about Sophia. When we arrived at Ben's office, I was both excited and apprehensive. I knew that the next thing we were going to talk about was how to proceed with the lawsuit and how to rebuild my life. But most of all, I'm desperate to know what happened to Sophia. In the almost 6 years since then, I've hardly heard anything about her. Just as we were about to enter the office, Ben's cell phone suddenly rang. He answered, and his face instantly turned pale. "Something's happened," he said, with palpable anxiety in his voice. "Someone broke into your old apartment, and the scene is a mess. Police found it there." Before he could finish his sentence, I stormed out the door. Even though things have changed, it still holds so many memories for me. And now, what's waiting for me? My mind was filled with unease and questions, wondering what I was about to face. I walked briskly towards what used to be my home, Ben close behind me. On the way to my apartment, my mind kept going back to the events of the past few days. At the same time the court acquitted me, the prosecutor immediately filed charges of perjury and obstruction of justice against Evelyn. Considering the seriousness of the case, the judge denied her bail application. Evelyn was arrested on the spot and taken from the courtroom. Ben told me she was likely facing 3 to 5 years in prison. Despite the deep hurt caused by Evelyn's betrayal, I still feel a twinge of unease at the thought of her going to prison. What worries me more is Sophia. After Evelyn's arrest, Sophia became an unsupervised minor. Social services are involved in the case, but the details are not yet clear to me. The sound of sirens pierced the quiet street as we reached the bottom of the apartment building. Several police cars were parked in front of the building, and police officers were shuttling back and forth. "Sir, this is a crime scene. Please stay away." An officer stopped me. "This is my apartment," I explained. "I'm Ethan Reeves." At the sound of my name, the officer's expression changed immediately. "Mr. Reeves, please come with me," he said, with a hint of sympathy in his tone. As I walked into the apartment, the sight in front of me stopped me in my tracks. The once cozy home is in shambles. Furniture is falling apart, paintings are torn from the walls, and rummage sales are everywhere. On the floor of the living room was a large puddle of dark red liquid, half-dried. "Is that blood?" I asked. A criminal forensics officer nodded. "Yes, we're running DNA tests." I frowned, wondering if this had anything to do with Evelyn. Although she is now in custody, the break-in may have occurred prior to her arrest. I walked quickly to the study where my most important design drawings and materials were stored. Pushing the door open, it was a mess. My heart sank, for I knew that the papers that had been rummaged through contained years of my work. "Ethan," Ben's voice came from behind him. "Are you okay?" I turned to face Ben. "These are the projects I was working on before I went to prison. There were some innovative design ideas in them that were important to me in rebuilding my career. But now?" Ben immediately understood the gravity of the situation. "Are you saying that someone might have stolen your design?" I nodded. "Yes, we must find them soon." Just then a police officer approached. "Mr. Reeves, we found this in the bedroom." He handed me a small box. "It looks like it was left just for you." I opened the box and inside was a picture and a note. The picture was of a young girl I had never seen before, about 15 or 16 years old. She had eyes similar to Sophia's, but with a hint of stubbornness in her demeanor that I was familiar with. The note had just a few simple words. "She needs your help. S." The S. Could it be Sophia? But who's the girl in the picture? Why did Sophia say she needed my help? Just as I was thinking about all this, Ben's cell phone rang. He answered, and his face turned serious. "Ethan," he said as he hung up, "there's a lady named Laura who wants to see you. She says she's your neighbor, and that she has some important information about Sophia." I was immediately alerted. Sophia? Have you heard from her? Let's go now. As I left the apartment, I looked back at the devastated home. I knew that the Real challenge was just beginning. I had to find out the identity of the intruder and learn about Sophia while facing the daunting task of rebuilding my life. When we arrived at Laura's house, we were greeted by a tired but strong-looking middle-aged woman. "Mr. Reeves," she said softly, "I apologize for not contacting you before. I've been babysitting Sophia." "Sophia? Where is she? Is she okay?" I asked eagerly. Laura shook her head. "She's not here. But before she left, she asked me to give you this." With that, she handed me a letter. I carefully opened the envelope and began to read Sophia's words with a mixture of anticipation and apprehension. I knew that every next step could change the course of my life, and I had to be prepared for every possible challenge. I carefully unfolded the letter Sophia had left, trying to control my trembling hands. "Dear Dad, first, let me say I'm glad you're finally free. I've been trying to prove your innocence for the past 6 years, and now I've finally succeeded. I know you must have a lot of questions. Why didn't I wait here for you? Why did you forward this letter through Aunt Laura? The truth is, I needed some time to organize my thoughts. So much has happened over the years. We've all changed. After Mom, Evelyn, was arrested, Aunt Laura offered to take care of me. Social services agreed after an assessment. Aunt Laura has been like a real mother to me these past 6 years. She was also the only one who always believed you were innocent. Dad, I have to tell you about an important decision. I've decided to go to law school. Seeing the injustice you suffered, I was determined to become a lawyer and help innocent people like you. I've been accepted to NYU Law School, which starts next month. I know you're probably feeling lost because we're going to be apart for a while again. But believe me, it's not because I don't want to see you. I just need some time to prepare to face you at my best. I have some leads about the break-in at your apartment. After news of your release broke, some of Marcus' associates panicked. They fear that you may have some evidence against them. I suspect they broke into the apartment and tried to find or destroy evidence. I have shared this information with the FBI agents working on your case. They are conducting an investigation. Dad, please be very careful. Although Marcus is in prison, his network is still in operation. I know this is hard for you to accept. You've just regained your freedom and you're faced with such a challenge. But I believe in you, just like you've always believed in me. We've been through so much together. We'll be able to get through this. I'll be waiting for you at NYU. When you're ready, please come find me. We have so much to say, so many hugs to make up for. Love you always. Sophia." After reading the letter, I took a deep breath and tried to calm my inner turmoil. My little girl has grown up and is not only mature and stable, but also aspires to be a lawyer. I'm so proud of her, and at the same time heartbroken that I missed a crucial time in her development. I turned to Ben and Laura and briefly told them about the letter. Ben frowned and said, "We need to call the police immediately about the apartment break-in. While the FBI is investigating, the local police should get involved." Laura nodded and added, "I can testify that Sophia has been trying to prove your innocence all these years. She's gathered a lot of information that may help in the investigation." Just then, my cell phone rang. It was FBI Agent Johnson. "Mr. Reeves," her voice sounded nervous. "We made a major discovery while investigating the break-in at your apartment. The blood we found at the scene matched a key associate of Marcus. It appears that during the search, they had an argument." I felt a chill. "What does that mean, Agent?" "It means we may have caught the key clue to dismantling Marcus' entire criminal network," Johnson said. "But it also means you could be in danger. We suggest you move to a safe place for the time being." After hanging up, I was deep in thought. I had just regained my freedom, only to face a new threat. But I know that this could be the chance to end it all once and for all. "Ben," I turned to my old friend, "I need your help. We need to get to the bottom of this once and for all, not only for my safety, but for Sophia's future as well." Ben nodded firmly. "We face this together, Ethan. You're not alone." Over the next few weeks, we worked closely with the FBI to delve deeper into Marcus' criminal network. By analyzing the clues left behind by the intruder, as well as the information Sophia has gathered over the years, We're gradually piecing together the complete picture. During the course of the investigation, we discovered that Marcus was not only involved in real estate fraud, but also in a series of money laundering activities. His criminal network is much bigger than we thought. On the advice of the FBI, I'm staying in a safe house for the time being. Although it means I won't be able to see Sophia for a while, we talk on the phone every day. I felt both proud and heartbroken listening to her talk about her life in law school. Finally, after more than a month, the FBI managed to dismantle Marcus' entire criminal network. A number of his associates have been arrested, and a large amount of illegal assets have been seized. The crime syndicate that once broke my family finally fell apart. After the crisis was over, I finally had a chance to meet Sophia. The moment I saw her on the NYU campus, all words paled. We embraced each other and cried as 6 years of separation melted away in this moment. "Daddy," Sophia looked up with tears in her eyes. "Welcome home." I hugged her tightly and whispered, "Thank you, baby. Thank you for never giving up." From that day on, I turned a new page in my life. I decided to restart my architectural career, but this time I focused on designing affordable housing for the less fortunate. Sophia, on the other hand, is focused on her law studies and aspires to become a lawyer specializing in wrongful death cases. As for Evelyn, she has served her sentence well and sincerely regrets her actions. Although we can't go back to the way things were, for Sophia's sake, we've learned to make peace. Life isn't perfect, but I've learned to appreciate the moment and be thankful for what I have. Whenever I see Sophia's determined eyes or receive a text message from her excitedly sharing her learning experience, I feel that it's all worth it. I, Ethan Reeves, had lost everything, but now I have more than ever. This is not just a story of justice served, it is a story of rebuilding, hope, and renewal. And this, just the beginning of our new life. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have a story to share about your own or someone else's experience, please feel free to contact me. Take care.